All right, thank you for joining us for our first semifinal. We have Frank
my best cards.
Merfolk as our number one seed against
Probably a
Ben
little bit of
on the
something,
left,
honestly. I don't know
playing
what to do about
Boros
it. I guess
Energy
just more
as our number four
off
seed.
magic.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
pretty close knit top four there. So
Alright.
both
High roll, low roll.
Right, so 14
Low roll.
Low roll.
the ones on the cut line.
Oh, for real?
Actually, Ben's first top four. So he will definitely need some player championship points going into the end of the season.
I
Exciting stuff.
Definitely adding a new name to the Players Championship leaderboard is always an exciting
We're
prospect. And you were just telling me a little bit ago that Ben in the last tournament played a Boros aggressive prowess deck as well. So did you see him sticking in the color combo?
don't know, bro. I don't
A little
know.
bit to this Boros Energy deck. I had the
Am I gonna get
opportunity to play
crazy?
against him in round one, and he was definitely off to an aggressive start in round game two.
I'm gonna keep, but I don't know what I'm
Definitely still
gonna do.
learning the deck. So him and Frank are cousins actually. So Ben's been doing a lot of play testing between these two decks. So I'm sure they know what they're going against each other. But then being so new to the deck,
I think you're
Frank
technically
being
tied
so,
for third if you lose.
veteran.
Don't play off for.
And modern is a format that really rewards
Thanks, you guys. Got the same amount of packs as
familiarity
well.
as
We
well.
will.
There's so many small interactions on the cards. The interactions over the years get
Worst
game.
to see we played it
on paper things don't line up exactly.
and you beat me every time.
Why
Ben's deck.
Do you? Do you dare?
Shot
I dare go to
only
five?
two
I don't know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like a lot of
Feeling
deck
lucky.
lists are on 3 to 4, so we kind of see
Have
two.
to. I'm not drawing anything
A little
good.
bit different for sure. I think playing that.
I don't know how greedy to get. I think I'm gonna get
Probably it, along with that Goblin Bombardment. We see one of Bone Crusher Giant, so. And we see a little bit less of bolts. We only have 2 bolts and 3 Galvanic Discharge, so a little bit less removal than the other Boros Energy deck
I did
that we
14
saw in
to
the
try.
tournament.
Yeah, definitely an interesting take on it. Maybe a little bit more love and affection given to this list to tweak the numbers where he wants them to be. And hopefully it obviously paid off for him here in making the top 4. Hopefully it continues to pay off for him here. We'll see.
Sorry.
And yeah, I wonder if the going down on Ragdown that gave response to expecting more of this Boros Energy in the field. That you run into a lot of 1/1 first strike creatures, a lot of 1/1 tokens floating around, and Ragdown in those scenarios can be a bit of a liability. It is obviously still an incredibly powerful card, and
All right,
one that
let's
when
go.
going unanswered can really put on a lot of pressure for 1 red mana. But maybe that's the thought process there. Looks
What
like
does?
Ben is
Still?
down to
Tavern named Merfolk.
So
Yeah, looks like he took a two mole there.
Yes.
So we'll see what Frank's got.
Eighth vial.
The
Go
cavern
ahead.
souls right into the 8th vial. We're starting off hot.
and I don't believe I see any white mana in Ben's hand, so up there is the Sacred Foundry. Just so many new arts could be tough to keep up at this point. Eighth vial, a great start on the Merfolk
Island.
side.
Silver Gill Adept,
Ten tokens,
revealing
some card draw advantage
Dockhand.
here.
Okay.
Silver
card.
Adept, I believe.
Yep.
Drawing Frank a card.
Wow, I'm Dockhand.
We're gonna draw another 8th
Now I
vial.
have it.
He's gonna go for that Rashad
Go ahead.
Dockhand though.
Definitely a tempo advantage in that Rashad and Dockhand to maybe keep
hold that
Ben
thought.
off some of his bigger spells in the coming turn.
show
John coming down to create
I'm gonna sack
it appears to
Dockhand.
still be on the stack at
Flare
this
denial
point, and met with a flare of denial.
Yeah, Frank showing
go.
that respect to the Ajani.
Untap.
Such a resilient
Upkeep.
card, so definitely getting rid of it before it hits that battlefield with no sense of removal from the fish side.
Yes, and with that lack of
Vial
removal,
and
Ben would really be able, if it had stuck, to use the token to his advantage, being able to attack in basically for free, because at that point Frank can't afford to block and flip that Ajani into the powerful Planeswalker.
do I?
And I can't tell, Ben's got his hand kind of I thought it was Blood Moon, but hard to kind of tell.
It looks like in the second arena to me, but I'm not
Pay 3 life. Oh, I guess you saw my hand.
getting a little bit of
Pay 3 life, go to 17.
to see here in the coming turns.
Frank gonna pay 3 life.
I'm going to play Faelun.
Thinking this is
I'm going to Violin, Lord of Atlantis.
I'm
I'm going to swing 3 at you.
And Merfolk's doing what Merfolk's doing best and beating down with some big old creatures. Getting in for 3 damage there with the silver.
Gives everything else
Gilded.
Ward 1. It has indestructible.
And the Sky and Sea is an indestructible Sky and Sea at this point.
Yep, so a lot of things on board here. Ben's gonna make some moves.
Looks like the draw was an Aether Hub.
Flats,
And
take
that
1.
might be a Plains. How could you tell? I don't know.
I think we'll fetch land here, so I'm assuming gonna be a Marsh Flats.
Fair enough.
A while ago.
Maybe we have a Forge coming down here. The 3 mana slot. Searching up White Source.
I'll do that.
Like a Flage onto the Lord would be pretty solid, but it does have that Ward 1, so.
Right, yeah. And I
You fetch for Plains.
trigger abilities and spells. I believe it does.
Okay.
Flayed you?
Pretty nice.
Flaged me.
Target ability, we'll see here.
Okay, so you go to 20, I go to 14.
I go to
And
9.
Oh, you fetched. Yeah.
looks like that damage going straight up top. So Ben, well aware of what Ward does, unlike us.
I don't have anything.
I think it's
Untap. Upkeep. I'm gonna
Yeah, he's got
leave that
plenty
there.
of reminders of it, I suppose.
Draw.
Frank's keeping the vial on his
I'm going to activate 8th Vial. Lord of Atlantis.
Or you might be doing this
Go to combat. 3,
but
4, 3.
Cards.
Draw a card.
Nope.
So swing 10. Go 9.
it's going to
Go.
Yeah.
yeah, so getting that card draw advantage off of it is just incredible.
Another land coming down for Ben.
You got it.
And
Emperor, let's see what we got. Gotta respect the Pokemon fire energy there.
yes, for sure. And Ocelot of the Pride.
Yeah, so we got an Ocelot coming down. That's a great little.
Ben can find a removal spell, and that is a Goblin
Okay.
Bombardment, so that's
Untap.
one form of a removal spell. If he can find a removal spell for a blocker here, that Ocelot might be able to start getting to work.
Aether Vial.
Do have a lot of lords out here. Oh, that's a
Go to
a
combat.
hammer against him right now.
4, 3.
Most of those Marcos
5,
plus
6.
3 plus 3 all
4, 4.
plus 2 plus 2
4, draw a card.
4, 8,
What's the biggest?
5, 6.
19,
What's the next biggest?
Okay, cool.
I think impressive thing
So-
out here too.
Gain a life,
Only lost
and then
one
8 goes
game,
through, so you're
not a
down to 2.
match, but one singleton game this whole tournament.
yes, yeah, running like
Could I sack these in response?
See if you can keep that streak
What's that?
up.
Could I sack those?
You can sack him in response, yeah. You can't kill. Well,
No,
you can't kill anything. You could do 2 damage to me.
letting damage happen.
What would I, my life?
You wouldn't gain the life.
Yeah, that's
Potentially
alright.
going off that awesome.
Alright. I think you just have this.
Yeah.
Perhaps missing the trigger there. Yeah. No, it's coming back from that situation regardless. I don't think that.
Admiral, what'd you have in your opening hand?
No, I don't think
I
there's
don't even know.
anything.
Not enough.
Was it like mostly lands? You just didn't
Yeah.
have action?
Mostly lands and then the next
What is my plan?
Pull that up. Austin, with you having the printed deck list, why don't you go ahead and start reading them off? Why?
Yeah, so on Frank's side with the Fifth, we have 4 Chalice the Void, we have 3 Vidalian Hexcatcher, we've got 3 Summons, 3 Tashawn's Tidebenders, 2 Dismembers, and then on Ben's side for the Boros Energy, we have 3 Thraven Charms, 2 Wear Tears, 2 Worm's Chance, 1 Gigantha, 2 Sun Cleansers, 2 Stony Silence, 2 Damping Sphere, and 1 Fear Fire Foes. So I would assume that, you know, as we saw Frank arrive now for us, he's probably bringing in these members. Looks like he's probably bringing the Chalice the Void. Although I don't know with him knowing Ben's deck list and a lot less one drops, if he's still going to go
Do you
with
want to
that
take a
game
picture after
plan or
that?
not.
Yeah, real quick,
Maybe
if you guys-
subtlety over
when you go
the
to
chalice
shuffle
on the
up,
draw there. So we'll kind of see what Frank
stop
decides to
doing
do
what you're doing.
on
Stand there, I want to see if the
Ben's
We can't really
end.
pause it. Do you want
It
to
looks
stop the
like
video? Or?
No.
Trading funds are pretty much the only
Okay.
thing that he has to constitute removal.
You big
From fire foes, whatever the name of that
They're
card
still
is.
playing over there.
Probably
Post
not going to get it
land
done
wipe.
with a couple of lords on the other side of the battlefield. Remind me of the text on
It is, I think on either card king or
Hex
TCG player. I think it's 6 per
for,
case.
protection
No.
Do you know
to
Roger? And then after that,
permanents.
You know what? I actually remember him from like a Magic Facebook from Youngstown. Yeah, yep.
Chance of there's no target player can't cast spells this turn.
Honestly, dude, that's kind of the way to do it because those are the age and people want to draft them and like, yeah, it's not bad if you're gonna invest. How often are you guys gonna try and do this? Like 3 months? Okay. Are you like down here, like here, or like somewhere else in Columbus? Okay. Oh, no place. Okay. Yeah.
Steal one away. When you don't have that many other options,
They used to go on a track ride. Wasn't high
maybe
school.
something.
Yeah, not myself here, or maybe it was the kind of thought.
No, it was like around regionals and state time. Like, cause I'm from McDonald's right outside Houston.
But I don't think you're really looking for that at that point. I think you're just trying to
Are you from down here or are you from up there?
Yeah, there's a lot of tension.
So you're kind of from up there.
Effective the Merfolk.
So did you ended up like in the Youngstown area, like around ICG from
that
last
Aether
year?
Vial is in play because it gets to put all of its threats in essentially for free and hold up those counter spells in that interaction. It's a very impressive combination. Well, the players are continuing to get shuffled up here. I know what we've seen in the past is Frank acting like the control deck in this situation, and we mentioned that that Ben here has a few fewer one drops. Does that give him any additional resiliency to go a little bit longer with Frank?
I think he definitely still has, so I would assume he's probably going to take out the Blood Moons. If he left those in, I'd be a little surprised. So potentially, maybe even just bring in that Wear Tear versus the Blood Moon to be a little bit more, versatile in that instance. So we saw obviously the weird interaction earlier with Harbinger and then layered with a Blood Moon, but I don't think that's what he's probably thinking here. So
Right, yeah, and in general, that Blood Moon isn't meant to repair your lands as much as it is to damage your opponents, which is not going to be the case. You'd have to have a awfully weird draw from Frank here to not be able to cast his blue spells.
and I don't think Stony Silence is what it's meant to be in this. I don't think you're once again focusing on Aether Vial that much to where you bring that in.
Agreed. It'll be interesting to see if Ben prioritizes the Guide of Souls a little bit more heavily than we saw Luke or Diddy do in earlier rounds. That Guide of Souls really maybe the key to getting in those final points of damage in some of these later rounds. But unfortunately, it looks like Ben's taking yet another mulligan. We saw him mulligan down to 5 in game 1, and it looks like he's going to 6 here for game 2. Frank seems content with his 7, so he's patiently waiting for Ben to get shuffled up.
Yeah, and Ben does have 22 lands. You really don't need, all too many. You can pretty much pile it off of 2. Obviously you want to get to that Flage instance, but
Right, but you
all
have
your stuff.
you have time to get there for that instance. Yeah, 22 seems like plenty in this type of deck. Well, while the players figure out if this is going to be a keep, Austin, why don't you tell us, we're a little bit into the tournament here, but why don't you tell us about what drove you to start hosting these?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously COVID kind of shut some things down. We kind of got away from from all of that, and then it's just really hard to get out. Life's busy, so we felt that there was kind of a harsh environment in some of these shops. So how do we get people involved, have fun with Magic, but also stay competitive? So we've kind of opened it up, let proxies come in for some of the younger kids, and really trying to engage them. So it's been a great time so far. We've had a great time with we give out a lot of door prizes. We've done championship stuff. We're working on, we get a booster box and kind of pass it out for rewards. We've had trophies. You know about that, as Jared was the champion of our cardboard Cellar #1 tournament. So won that trophy and took down a pretty solid field. So no, it's been a great time getting all these new players engaged and learning. So hopefully next time we have about 20 players.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I got very lucky in that first tournament to be able to take that one down, and it's been a great experience to see all the smiling faces, everyone really getting along and playing decks that they love. Not necessarily that they're just trying to get every edge by playing the newest, most competitive deck, but decks like Fish that we don't see too often, but that really have a place in people's hearts.
Yeah, so we're excited. We'll continue the championship series and continue to try to grow it. So
For sure. And like we mentioned, Guide of Souls likely to play a big role in this matchup, and Ben has it on turn one. I don't know if that was an aggressive mulligan to try to find it. If anyone knows this matchup, it would be him. So perhaps he knew that that's what he needed to dig for.
And I think Frank said that he was a little iffy on this matchup. He said he felt like Boros Energy had the advantage on him. So let's see if Ben can kind of take advantage of that and kind of go forward,
Yeah,
play the aggro aggressor here.
he's really been running well against it so far in this tournament. I think he's now beaten it at least two times at this stage, and coming up against it in this semifinal, he's got to be feeling better about it than when he first came into the day.
Frank putting on the pause, putting on the hold here. Oh, okay.
Proceeding with the dismember, but both players highly valuing Guide of Souls there.
Yeah, to take 4 life for that, showing the respect. Oh, there comes that orange chant we talked about. It's a little late though.
Yep, in the upkeep. Well, stop Frank from continuing to develop his board, I suppose. But if that's what that card does, I don't.
So I think that was still in Ben's turn. I think he thought it would take care of the dismember, but it was after, so it was already on the stack. So I just believe that was a misplay, learning experience. So
For sure, for sure.
so not paying 3 life this time. Looks like don't have much to do on turn two. Kind of rare for the fish, but
Maybe
oh,
keeping the hand based on the strength of that dismember and uh, valuing not getting too far behind at the beginning here. But Frank already down to 12 after taking that big chunk of life from the dismember and now another 3 from the flage. Frank with a full grip of cards, looking like he is going to proceed with the
oh,
chalice on one.
yeah, keeping open for that chalice on the one. So once again, we'll see if it's as effective versus Ben as it was versus Diddy.
And I don't think Ben is anywhere near escaping that flage yet. If I recall, there's a card in his graveyard from that Surveil land, the Guide of Souls, and the flage itself. There may be a fetch land as well, based on the fact that he's at 22 rather than 23, but still quite a few cards off
Yep, we're
of being
coming in
able
with
to
an Amped
escape.
Raptor here. Let's see Ragavan. Oh, can't cast.
Yeah, is it worth it trying to give up an energy to push it through? It might actually be just to get it into your graveyard to fuel Flage.
Yeah.
Um,
Frank's on top of his chalices.
yes,
So
definitely no one sneaking through there. I played a match in a Grand Prix one time where a player cast a chalice on turn two, and then I just proceeded to cast all my 1 mana spells the entire game. He never remembered a single trigger from it.
you gotta remember those triggers, guys.
Frank taking a moment to consider how he can best proceed with 3 mana on turn four. plenty of options in that hand. Looks like he's up to 6 cards at this point.
Looks like we're gonna flip a Sanctus Stupor.
Getting himself up to 4 mana there and just pass the turn.
No vial, so really trying to utilize that land here.
Yeah, and also I think he's got the options between a flash creature and maybe a couple of counter spells there, unless he's gonna proceed with the sea and sky creature one more
Yeah, I
time.
feel like there's Spaloon coming here.
Spaloon.
Yep, and here it is. Let's see.
And a vulnerable one for once. We haven't seen that too much. Most of the time he's already got at least one Merfolk in play and a vial ready to go to give it indestructible.
Yeah, it's looking like
But with this chalice in play, like you've mentioned, he might be safe from too many shenanigans on that front.
oh, Ben's going straight to the dome here.
Yeah.
So yeah, that might be the best play. We'll see if it's going to kind of work out for that piece. It only takes 3 more of those hits.
Yep, and we're coming dangerously close to Flage being online to escape as well.
Oh, yeah, he's going to run it right in.
Yep.
I don't know if he forgot or he was trying to jam it.
Yeah. And even it could be the other option of just fueling Flage some more. I mean, it's worth it at this point. That card isn't doing you any good in your hand. I'm not aware of any looters in Ben's deck, so might as well get it out there.
Oh, unfortunately, it looks like there is a Tishana's that is in play there. So, yep, revealing it.
Why don't you go ahead and I'll pull up the text of Flage real quick, and you pull up Tishana's, I'll pull up Flage. We had that conversation a while ago about how this interaction would go. We had a bit of a question on it with the triggered abilities from Flage and the escape condition, as Ben draws 1 card into his hand for the turn, untapping with 4 mana. I think we likely know what's about to happen. Flage coming back from the graveyard. Flage reads, when Flage enters the battlefield, sacrifice it unless it escaped. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, it deals 3 damage to any target and you gain 3 life. So
I feel like that's obviously the triggered ability there. And
yes,
then
so there would be there'd be 2 triggered abilities on the stack right now. Now he's already met the condition of it being escaped, so he shouldn't have to sacrifice this regardless. But the Lightning Helix ability is on the stack. And we do have a Tishana's coming down, so we're going to get to see the scenario we discussed. And Tishana's...
yeah, so Tishana's reads, when Tishana's Tidebinder enters the battlefield, counter up to 1 target activated or triggered ability. If an ability of an artifact, creature, or planeswalker is countered this way, that permanent loses all abilities for as long as Tishana Tidebinder remains on the battlefield.
So interestingly, the Flage has returned to the graveyard. I think that's actually an error on the part of our players, unless I'm misunderstanding the rules here. I don't see any combination where Tishana's actually kills that Flage or prevents it from coming back. Maybe they're under the impression that the escape is what was countered, but the escape isn't an ability, it's an alternate cost. So I don't believe Tishana can stop that from happening. I think there should be a Flage on the battlefield for Ben at the moment. A Flage with no additional abilities, but a 6/6 nonetheless. Austin is going to do a quick rules check for us here and see if that is the case, but as Frank looks to be lining up a potential attack, the sky and sea come rolling in, and a Silvergill Adept thinks about getting frisky but seems to be staying at home. Another card in Frank's hand. And the mini Flood Moon, of which I have no idea what the name is, but I know that that land is now an island. So Ben, a bit constrained on mana here with an Aether Hub, and I believe a Plains left to produce colors of mana that his deck can utilize, and 2 islands kind of set off to the left there, essentially useless for his deck.
So I think in the wording it says, I think, if we're doing a dress down, it doesn't have the sacrifice ability as it enters. But since Flage already enters, it enters with that ability and it goes off. And then it triggers the lightning helix, then causing it. So it would already put its.
Sure, but that was an escaped Flage, so it should not have gone away. It had already met the condition for unless it was escaped.
I didn't think it was an escaped, but
It
maybe was it? Well, then it should have stayed.
Yep, so we've got a bit of a rules situation here. Nothing we can do about it at this phase, and again, perhaps we're misunderstanding something in these interactions. I actually prefer that, so hopefully I'm just making a fool of myself here rather than pointing out an error in our top four. But it does look like Frank has quite stabilized the board as this galvanic bombardment. That's the name of that card, I believe.
Yeah.
As this galvanic bombardment tries to pick a target and gets countered by the chalice.
Galvanic discharge.
Galvanic discharge, that's what it was. I knew it didn't sound
No,
right.
goblin bombardment,
I'm
galvanic
just
discharge.
hankering for a goblin bombardment is really what's happening.
I know you like to play that card. So.
Yeah. Yep, maybe we'll get to see that in the next round as you and I square off against each other.
Frank's got a full board here.
Definitely. We're looking at no lords yet, surprisingly, but still looking at what 5-8 power on Frank's side of the battlefield, faced off against just a 2-1 from Ben.
Yeah, given first strike, but I don't think it's doing much here. And we have the Mutavault hide back there.
Yeah, that Mutavault's always ready to get busy.
Oh, we've got another.
Frank not content with 6 mana, he needs 7 in this deck. And the sky and sea come rolling in. The cards keep flowing for Frank. That looks like quite a full grip, and I think Ben is playing off the top of his deck, so.
Hey, look, if you make it to where Merfolk has 7 land, you're doing a pretty good job. So
yeah, agreed.
If you haven't already lost by that point.
Ben, considering his options here, just passes it back. Frank will untap, add another card to that robust hand. And here comes land number 8.
Is this the first? Nope, we're trying to spreading seas another.
Spreading Sea is such an annoying design for a card for me. The fact that you have this enchantment floating on your lands so that the number of permanents that you think are lands is off by one irks me to no end. I normally just take my land and set it off in the exile pile and use the Spreading Seas as my land for a little bit of a shortcut there.
Yeah, super disrespectful card,
Yeah.
And they get to draw a land off, or draw a card off of it, so,
Especially back in the days when I was playing control mirrors all the time, you'd end up with 20 permanents in your land pile, and you miscount one because there's a Spreading Seas tucked in there and lose a counter war over it or something. But Stomp, a good top deck for us here. Looking like going after this Tishana's Tidebinder, but
gonna force a negate. He's gonna hard cast it though.
Yeah,
got all the mana for it.
For sure. All the mana in the world, but that'll clean up both sides of that Bone Crusher Giant. Our players may be confirming that here before proceeding with play, but yeah, that Bone Crusher Giant is not on a little bit of a stroll.
Yep, nope, gonna go straight to the exile piece. So that was a judge call. called me over. So we did kind of.
As our players are sorting this out some more, we can go back to hating on Spreading Seas for a while if we want. Frank will untap. Ben's facing down a awful assault at the hands of quite a few big fish.
Yeah, I think Ben's got a lot of work to go here. Frank's in a pretty good position. Super full hand.
Yeah, to glance at his hand, I think I saw 2 Flare of Denials in there. So, and with Ben only with the 1 card in hand, I believe it's a land as well. There's not much that he can do at this stage. He may have a Flage left in his graveyard. I don't know. With his graveyard just off screen there, how much fuel he has for that Flage to be able to come back. be nice to see a return of it and get a clarification on, oh, you know what, if they, it's also possible perhaps that they think that Tishana's is preventing it from escaping again. If that is an interaction that,
Which that's what I thought. I thought that was the interaction.
yeah, and perhaps it is.
But I guess if it is a cost.
The spreading seas make their way back over to the other side of the board, and Frank is headed to the finals.
Yep, Frank going to the finals. He a little bit of a revenge from last time, getting in that top four and taking me down, unfortunately, in the semifinals. But nope, yep, he did a great job.
So on that note, we'll move off to our next semifinal and see how things pan out for Austin and I.